artists behind the epic melodies, songs, and beats. Celebrating the best new music from around the world. This is the A State of Trance podcast.
Hey, what's up? My name is Ruben Ronde and welcome to a new A State of Trance podcast. And in the studio today, a man that has been part of our history of the State of Trance for quite a long time, I think. And he's finally back here in the studio after, let's calculate this, almost 200 episodes actually. So it's 4 years.
Yeah.
How you doing, Leen Bollier?
All good, man.
Yeah. Well, we mostly know you now as, I guess the new generation of listeners know you as BLR a little bit more, or Bollier. But in this podcast, I mean, I have to go back a little bit to the...
Yeah, sure.
Like, let's say 20 years ago when...
Let's go.
You bursted into the scene as Leen Bollier. That's
true.
how I guess so we can say that. In this podcast, I would like to go through a certain, I would say, things that happened in your career that made you who you are right now, I guess. And also have a couple of questions that were submitted by fans. So let's start at the very first beginning, because I listened to a couple of interviews that you did in the last few years. Check them actually in the before I started this podcast, so the research of it. You were influenced by Too Unlimited.
Yeah.
That's how everything started for you.
Yes. I remember back in primary school, I had to do a presentation.
Yeah.
At some point, and the teacher just assigned famous people to do the presentation about. Mine was Mozart, actually.
Okay.
So I did that, and I did my research as a kid, and kind of got intrigued by that he was a composer rather than a piano player.
So making his own music rather than to play music of somebody else.
Yeah, exactly, writing it, and then fast forward a couple years. A friend of mine actually showed me just some stuff he recorded from radio, and it was Too Unlimited's No Limit.
Yeah,
and I was just blown away by actually the bass drum.
Yeah,
because it was not an acoustic bass drum, but this deep, and I just started listening to actually that single.
Mm-hmm.
It was a CD single he recorded on a cassette tape. With I think 6 or 7 versions of the same track, and I was just listening to it, and it was this rim shot, and I thought that's a coffee mug. People just so yeah, and then later on I started recording that stuff on a small cassette recorder, with coffee mugs and pots and pans and banging that stuff.
Yeah, so just by listening to the music, you were hey, I want to figure this out as well. Then of course your brother came in, Bart.
Yes.
And then you started making music together.
Yeah, and
just
also
by recording random stuff and just putting it together.
And also together with a cousin of mine. We were just together and recording that stuff, and also doing the rapping, because in Too Unlimited was a rapping, and we didn't know English that well, so it was
do you still have some of these recordings or no?
I would love to, but I don't know. Maybe at my parents' place, somewhere in the attic. I would be surprised though if he still had it, because later on we just started recording radio stuff off the radio, so we probably just erased it.
I remember doing the same thing actually, because back in the days, I mean we're gonna sound a little bit older now, but you would have a double cassette deck, and the speakers would actually function also as a microphone, I guess, so you could record stuff. And I remember also sitting down and just recording random sounds and also rapping. I don't know if you could call it rapping as well, but it was just fun to record bits and pieces and cutting it together. And
even later on, in the Netherlands, after the Eurodance, hardcore was big, and then the happy hardcore. So I figured out I could record myself singing in a certain key, and then just double the speed, and then you get those chipmunk
sounds.
Yeah. So I lost all of that. Too bad. Yeah.
And you probably also listen to a lot of Turn Up the Bass CDs and stuff that.
Yeah.
Oh, the good times. So listening to that music, you started making music. And what I found fascinating, because we had a lot of artists in the studio, let's say that are celebrating almost 30 years now in the business, and started out with a lot of hardware, synthesizers, stuff like that. And I think you were one of the first ones in the generation that were actually artists that started working with software alone.
Yeah.
Do you still remember growing up with software like that instead of like having expensive studios? You were one of the first of the generations that were coming in with software.
Yeah. So when I heard like the Too Unlimited stuff, I just knew like this is what I want to do.
I want to compose. I want to make music. Yeah.
I want to make electronic music. And then at some point, like I don't know if you remember, but back in the days in like media stores, like newspaper stores, they would also sell like those they were like packed in plastic, but those shareware CD-ROMs.
Yeah.
And with like demos of games and stuff. And so I bought one and I was just going over the demos of games. And then all of a sudden there was like this small software program, and it was a tracker. Probably called like Mod Tracker or something like this, and I just loaded it up, and there was a play button, and it started playing music, and it had like a little sample of Dr. Alban, "It's My Life," and I saw like it plays a sample, and there's like a bass drum, and I was like, oh my God,
what is this magic?
This is it.
Yeah.
Like my life is done.
Yeah.
So and then I started fooling around with that. Later on, I got like a new tracker. In that tracker, you were able to like load more channels,
have more sounds.
Have more sounds playing,
more modulation.
And then only later on, a friend of mine actually gave me like some ripped version of Nuendo, which is like kind of like Cubase, but it's actually even more like it's more post-production thing. Like, but he gave me a CD, and he said like, you were into making music, right? Like, check this out, and then like a whole new world opened up, because like the production quality, it was like CD quality. You will be able to put out with that stuff. So.
Yeah. So how long? So let's say, okay, you started making the music in the trackers. I know what it was like to work in trackers like Fast Tracker 2 and stuff like that. It was. I don't think you could call it like decent songs that were coming out of it or something like that. What kind of software did you use for your first production, and how long did it take you to get to a certain level to get something out?
The first production that got released?
Yeah.
So I guess around like 2000 is when my friend gave me like it was like a ripped version of Nuendo.
Yeah.
And I think I signed my first records like 3 years later, because like the bottleneck back then really was CPU power.
Yeah.
So I would work on like an idea, and I would have to bounce the idea down. I remember the first time discovering like a cutoff filter. You turn the knob and it goes like wait a minute, or like a reverb.
Yeah.
So I would put reverb on everything. So and then later on, like obviously you also listen to other records, and then like, oh yeah, those professional people, they don't put reverb on every channel, so I have to tone it down a bit. So that took a bit of figuring out, together with like finding my way around like the CPU that would overload, and in the end I had a couple of demos ready, and at some point I was just sending out demo CDs every weekend. I would go to the post office and like send them out.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't hear back from the labels. Even sometimes I would get like a letter in the mail that would just say like the standard, like, hey, thanks for your demo. It's unfortunately
this is not for us.
Yeah, it's not for one of our labels, yada yada. And I was like, they're deaf or whatever, they're stupid. So at some point I just started looking up email addresses of all those labels, and I just started emailing them like, yo, I'm sending you CDs or demos all the time. I think you're not even listening to them because it's better than the stuff you release now, like it like that. And one guy got back, and he like you probably know is Yuri Lodders.
Yeah.
So he got back. He was working for this record label Purple Eye back then, and he just got back like, oh, if you think your music is that good, come over to the office. And that's what happened. And we like played some demos. It was like deeper stuff, like deeper than what they were releasing. So he's like, yeah, it's great. Well, the music is great. It's not for us still, but I'm gonna send you to the office next to me. There's the publisher, which is Raymond.
Raymond van Vliet, yeah.
Raymond van Vliet.
Yeah.
And and then Raymond actually sent like a deal, like a proposal over. And at the same time, I was still like emailing with Armin, like because he gave some feedback on some tracks, etc. And I knew he was studying like something like author right or like something like
still university back then,
yeah, like legal stuff connected with music. So I told him like, can you look at this contract maybe? He's like, yeah, sure.
The publishing contract. That's the name
publishing. And I faxed it over, like that's old school, right? Yeah. And I put like a phone number on the contract and like, yo, here's the contract. I was still living with my parents, and I remember I was in the living room with my parents at the piano. So I would use the piano to like come up with new ideas. Yeah. So I was playing there, and then my mom walks in. Is like, yeah, I got like a phone call for you, some Armin from Buren. Like, and and it was Armin, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna introduce you to Michael, who was his publisher back then at Warner Chappell, and that's kind of where it started, because I signed with the publishing with Michael, and Michael he would be like, hey, I got this track right here called "Calling Your Name" by Libra.
Yeah.
And there was like versions of that track were out before that, so I actually had it like on vinyl. So and he's like, yeah, you want to remix it? I'm like, yeah, please. And that's what happened. And then he was just like, oh yeah, that's great. It's gonna be released. I'm like, you serious?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So a publishing proposal came in. You sent it to Armin, and then Armin sent it to his publisher. And
Armin just read it himself.
Oh, okay,
and he would just
like a yoink.
I wouldn't have signed with me. Like that.
All right. So this is gonna be a little of a break because my screen fell out again. So Floris, if you can help me out for a second, so we can continue with everything, because this is a professional podcast. So in the meantime. So you signed a publishing deal before you ever released the record, or
yes.
So what was the first record that you put out, or was it the remix for Libra that you put it out?
Yeah, that was like the remix for Libra was the first thing that officially got released by me. The first original track I did is a track under an alias called Subsphere. Actually, the remix for Libra also was like Subsphere remix. That track is called Infinite, was released on the Bonsai label, or Banshee. And I remixed the very first ASOT, Questia.
Nexus.
ASOT 001.
That was the first release ever on A State of Trance.
Yeah, maybe even Armada.
Probably, yeah. So that's even saying more that you're such a part of the history of this radio show.
Yeah.
And the label as well. Right, so the first releases that you did were on the Subsphere. When was the first time that you started bringing your own name, like Leon Bolier, into the game? Because before that you had, correct me again if I'm wrong, you had a release as Leon.
Yes, that was also on Bonsai. I also had Mind Sensation. But that was something like I started with my brother like way back. And so we just like, that just happened.
Yeah.
Then also I was maybe remember the club charts for him.
Yeah.
Like there, like Ilke Klein was on there. Like Menno de Jong. Like a lot of Estiva. He was there. But
those are fun days, to be honest.
Yeah. And like always like giving feedback on each other's music. So like actually learned a lot from those days, because at some point we started to be like really honest with each other, when something was shit, we would tell. But that was like the first half of the Zeros, and then like this really deep progressive stuff started to like emerge, and then like all those guys on the forum started to produce progressive and use their own name because it was like cool. And that's what it did as well. And then only
it's like Sasha and Dick, we were popping up, and you were
but it was like
cool deep shit.
Bart van Wissen.
Yeah.
And Ilke,
of course, as well.
Because he was doing like the 648 stuff, and then he started doing Ilke Klein, which he still uses. And so I started doing that, and then at the same time, I started to get my trance records out, and just at some point, I started signing stuff with Spinner Records. And it also had to do with like the bookings. Because I was doing all those aliases, but it was like all trance. It was just on different labels. So I done the thing on Black Hole. So Leon Bollier presents, so like that. So my name will be noticed. I signed stuff to A State of Trance, which will be Leon Bollier presents Suppressa.
Yeah,
and. Then
in 2006, Precursor came about as well.
Yeah, Precursor, that was like the spinning alias. But then also on spinning, I started to do like actual trance, like those tracks like Summer Night Confessions, Ocean Drive Boulevard. And I just felt like those tracks are like so big, I should put my own name.
Yeah. And then in 2006 was actually the first time that you only had Leon Bollier. That's it. So no alias whatsoever.
Yes.
And that was... My Precious.
Yeah.
Which I misnamed on the episode. So sorry for that once again. On Mike Shivers Captures label in 2006.
Yes.
So in the meantime, you were just putting out a lot of stuff on the different aliases. Inner Stories came about as well. Storming the market with so many releases. I think you're I don't know. I dove into your discography a little bit, and it's just it's impossible to track everything going on, I think. But again, we'll keep on going into time frame because 2006 was a massive year. That was pretty much your breakthrough year, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, for me, always like one of the major things for me that happened in my career, apart from like releasing like the first tracks or remixes, was Tiesto putting the Beyond track on Insert Sunrise, because there was just so many people like listening to that CD. Like that was such an institution. Nearly. And then I think like the same year or the year after, the Back in the Days track actually was something I wanted to put on Insert Sunrise, but they already closed the playlist the track list. And at the same time, I knew like Michael really wanted like originals for Armada, so I sent it to Armada. So that track ended up on State of Trance, and then I sent Armin another track like as an exclusive. It was called No Need to Come Back.
Yeah,
with Elsa Hill on the vocals, and then he put it on. I think A State of Trance 2006. Armin's compilation. So yeah, that's when stuff really started like happening for me.
Yeah. Because when I was looking back to the music that you were putting out, at 2006 were a lot of highlights. Like I said, No Need to Come Back with Elsa Hill was the first, I would guess, vocal tune that you ever put out.
I think so, yeah.
Also, you had music that you created with Menno on their Solo Express, Momentum and Magma, which were massive as well in June. And also Poseidon on the State of Trance as Suppressa.
Was it? Yeah, 06 as well? Like the
06
end.
as well, yeah. So, but I just want to jump back because you said something interesting there, because this is what I remember as well from back in the days, is that every year you would, well, I wouldn't get it because I don't think I was at the level that but I tried, that every year Search of Sunrise was being put out. And I remember that all of especially the guys in the club charts, because everyone was chasing that spot. The new generation of artists were like, okay, we have to jump in and try to get music on there. How did that actually work? Because I think it's an interesting thing, because putting stuff on the Search of Sunrise back then basically meant that you had like a whole year income.
Yes,
done straight away. So do you still remember, how did the process go of getting something on a compilation like that?
Yeah, but like the Beyond track, I didn't make, like if I would want a track on Insert Sunrise, I would have done something with like a guitar and like that kind of stuff. And I didn't know I think at that point I didn't know they like Thijs was compiling a CD because at that point I was just like I was like talking more to the Armada guys and spinning.
Yeah.
But still, like for me, it was also like kind of like a sport to have tracks out on like all the relevant labels,
which was like politically impossible back then. Like it's impossible to do all of these labels.
Yeah, well, that's why I have had all the aliases.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I made a track and I sent it to Dimitri.
Yeah.
And I just remember that at some point he texted me and he said to me that Thijs texted me like from the plane, and he wants that track you sent me is called 058. He wants it on the Sunrise. So I was like, yeah, sure, let's go. But yeah, that was like for me, I love that series. So apart from like, I didn't think of like any money I would make on it.
No,
I was just
it was like a huge validation that Chester would put it on the company. Because like I said, growing up in the time that we did, In Search of Sunrise was an institute. It was something you would look forward to, and that was the biggest release of the year.
Yes,
In Search of Sunrise.
Yeah, and then like the In Search of Sunrise 3, I had like listened to death back in 2002 on a holiday like in Portugal, like sitting on the balcony and like looping that CD, right? And then it took, because I think every year he would drop a CD or a compilation, and then 2 or 3 years nothing, and then all of a sudden Dimitri told me like, yeah, he's doing a new one and you're gonna be on it. So maybe that's why I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, and then afterwards, like 5 and 6, they also came like then he went back to like releasing.
Then became a double CD.
Yeah, but like then he went back to like doing a CD every year.
Yeah.
And yeah, it got released, and a year later, I got my statement. Just like in the mail, and it's like a letter, and I open it, and then there's like this amount of money I had never seen in my life as a student, So that was like when I quit like my side job and stuff.
Yeah. You're like, okay, here we go.
Yes, let's go. Yeah.
And also 2007, I guess that. Well, the funny thing is that it was interesting times for music as well, because 2007, you already mentioned Summer Night Confessions, that actually came in the top 40 in the Netherlands, the charts, right?
Yeah, or like in the
tip charts.
Yeah. But the same with Magma. Like Magma was in like the top 100 singles for sure, like, and pretty high up as well. Some of that Confessions got like a lot of airplay on, especially Slam.
Yeah.
Which was something I didn't really expect. Like it was like not the goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, then Spinning apparently they plugged it and it worked.
And later on that year, 2007, we're still in 2007 eras. It's crazy because that's, like I said, you put it out so much music that was a little bit hard to choose which releases to talk about. You kind of started slowing down as well, bringing in slower BPM stuff as Percussor. That's what I noticed when I was going through Beatport and listening to these all kind of tracks. Further Instructions came out as well.
Was it 07?
Yeah, it was 07. That's when the trend started, I guess, that things were like slowing down a little bit more. The guys like yourself also started to explore a little bit more sounds, not only the banging, uplifting stuff, but also like branching out a little bit.
I think like the first trance releases, I like the full on trance releases like started 141 BPM.
Yeah.
Then like I guess like Poseidon track like Poseidon are 138.
Yeah.
But Summer Night Confessions already was 135, and also Ocean Drive Boulevard 135. So that like the full on trance I released even after like 07 was still like 135, sometimes 132, but also sometimes 138. But the stuff like Further Instructions, it was kind of influenced by more of like the minimal techno and like they called it neo trance.
Yeah.
So like that will go from like the stuff like Len Faki would put out I also around that time, or maybe a bit later, I did this track called XD. That had like that, like very minimalistic but banging drop. So yeah, and also like those short percussive sounds, like a short clap.
Yeah.
So like that, and also the shuffly stuff. So like a lot of that stuff, and like also it going slower and being more minimalistic was more influenced by the minimal movement going on. But I still would like make it my own, and like if I felt like it needed a melody or whatever.
I think that's also the time that Dawn Rex became really big, and people like Reward Bart from WW came in with Share My Shuffle, and
that like, was shuffle. Yeah.
That was it's funny times as well. In 2008, you released your first album, Pictures. And you told me off air as well because you felt like you couldn't put out any music besides the trancey kind of stuff without putting out an album. So you were like, okay, I want to put out an album so I could be a little bit more diverse in things that I'm doing rather than just dance floor stuff.
Yeah, it's not even about like dance floor. I first figured that out. I think back in 2006, me and Menno de Jong, we done a float on the dance parade in Rotterdam.
Yeah.
And so Menno, they said like he was playing like full on trance, like all the classics like Foreign Angel and Fly Stick for Free. I'm like, cool. But I had like a couple of house records with me, techno records. I thought like those records, like they're so good. And I played the set, and then Menno had this forum. Intuition forum, and there was like a couple of people that like, oh, his set was so bad. I'm like, huh?
What do you mean?
I
love these records that I'm playing.
Yeah. So, but those, they were like into trance. So that's when I knew like, okay, like if like your brand or like whatever you want to call it, like, okay, I gotta like kind of like fence it off a bit. So like that year, I also played Intuition Party at ADE.
Yeah.
And then I just decided like I'm just gonna play, like I'm gonna give them what they want. Still, I will always play only music I like.
Yeah.
But like a bit less diverse. I made a track. I remember I made a track for an intro track, and I called it Ocean Drive Boulevard. So the first time I ever played it was over there, and then I played the set and. But at the same time, I still would like to make like a house record or a techno record every now and then. I just knew like I can't. I can, but like if I don't want like the hassle of people like hating and stuff, I cannot really release it as singles. So I would put those on albums.
Yeah.
Next to the fact that I have like quite a high output. So
which is kind of. There's still the situation that we in are right now is that people are saying certain things like being scared about changes or stuff like that. In the meantime, because you were in the studio or you were buying records, you were like, okay, I love this. This is what I want to share with people. Yeah. And this is what I want to tell in my DJ sets.
Yeah.
And then you read the comments and you're like, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. Or I don't dare to do that anymore. Or
it's not, it's not about daring. It's not about daring. Because at the same time, like that's why I say like I will never play or release records I don't like myself. So at that point I made the decision like, okay, everything that's like different I'll put it on an album. So the people that appreciate it can appreciate it. The people that don't appreciate it, they can just skip it.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like not like being afraid or whatever, or scared. It's like you could call it like a business decision.
Yeah.
Whereas the funny thing then is that when you make like that business decision to like only do that, they would think it's not a business decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because now you're following your heart. Like
no, this is not following your heart.
Not like it still is, but it's like the other stuff. It's also following your heart.
Yeah. That's kind of fucked up, to be honest. How it is, and when you look back at it, it's probably like, okay.
Yeah, but it's not like I'm not complaining. You know, like,
I know. But in another interview, I heard that you were saying, "I wish I didn't stick around so long in that thought."
That was the last time we were here, I think, maybe.
Now, there was an interview that I heard with Barend van Delen.
Oh,
yeah. So I was listening to that, and I was like, "Hey, you were stuck too long in that thought that you had to please a lot of people rather than to follow in your own heart."
Yeah, the thing was that it's like it's not that bad that like I didn't enjoy it no more, but it became a bit of a routine, like waking up and, oh yeah, let's do another track, or let's do another album. And then around that time also, like new stuff came up, which was like exciting for me in the beginning, like the big room EDM. Though having said that, like after 1 or 2 years, I already got bored by that as well. So and then I started doing more like the vocal deep house, and then at that point I actually told Jorn of Spinning Records, like, I think like more like cooler stuff is coming back, and that's like shortly after I started BLR actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before that, in 2000 and it's jumping back and forward again. 2008, you released Pictures, but you also appeared in the State of Trance Top 20 for the first time with a number 19, Ocean Drive Boulevard, which you just shared a little bit about how you created it, and it was the intro track for the Intuition Party.
Yeah, well, it was
not created for the party, but it was the first time.
So I had the track finished. I knew like this is a big track. I'm gonna make an intro version and play it there. Yeah,
and the rest is history.
Yeah.
2009 also. I remember this was such a big thing back then as well. So you had In Search of Sunrise was a big thing amongst trance DJs and producers, but also DJ Mag was such a big thing. So you entered the DJ Mag in 2008, and 2009 you went up even more. Can you explain a little bit how important it was back then? Because when you check the list in 2008, 2009, half of them were trance artists.
Yeah, and
everybody was like making videos and stuff like that. This was pre-social media time, so you had to put it up on YouTube and stuff like that.
Maybe there was Twitter.
Yeah.
And then like
MySpace.
But for me it was even in those years, everything was like still like everything that would happen was a bit unreal. Like your music is on the radio, wow. And then I remember Tim Stark, like he worked for DJ Mag.
Yeah.
And every year there was like the DJ Mag campaign started, and obviously I would put something out like vote for me or whatever, and
you would create a topic on trance.nu. Hey, vote for me.
But like only later I started to like. Well, it's not about like caring, but I just was like, it's no point for me to like, because I'm not gonna be in there, you know. Yeah. And then of course, like I guess on Twitter I would say like, hey, can you vote for me? And then at some random point, Tim called me, and he's just like, congrats mate, you're in.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? Yeah, and DJ Mag Top 100. I'm like,
what?
So and that's what happened. And then the next year I went up, and but also like pretty fast after I kind of stopped caring, because for me it felt like like in June or July the campaigning started, and then like in October there was like the results. So that's like from June to October, it's like four months already of the year, and then like you got your result in, and you had to start thinking of like what I'm gonna do this year. Like am I gonna do an album to get votes in, or and then soon after I also like I shifted genre, so I would lose those votes and like go down. So then I just stopped caring altogether.
Yeah. And also when you steered away from the more uplifting stuff, I guess it's 2010. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
The EDM scene came in, and DJ Mag just hijacked the whole thing, and then that's what happened as well. 2010, your album came out, Phantasma, which was very different of what you did before that time, I guess.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, well, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was like really like continuation of like pictures.
No, well, maybe. I'm just saying, like it was different from how you started out with things, and then, or was it for you as like a closure? I'm gonna get this out and then move away from stuff like that.
No, it was like I didn't think like, oh, I'm gonna do some different stuff on there. So I think that was like still like really
Trancey.
Trancey and what I'd done before. There was like the singles on there were like That Morning, I think, and then like Shimamoto and I Will Be There. Like I don't think those are like that different from the singles I done before. I Close My Eyes, actually, that was like a 138 BPM record. I made that, was really jet lagged. I couldn't sleep because of the jet lag, and then I made that record.
Proper title for a track.
I felt so bad, but then still I still think the record is beautiful. So.
Yeah. Also, a big thing happened the year after in 2011 because you started Streamlined.
Yeah.
With the Peacemaker EP. I guess that was the first release, I think.
Okay,
Again, if my research is wrong, correct me please in the YouTube sections. There you go. What made you decide to start out Streamlined?
Actually,
which is sort of a movement and label and whatever.
It was like I had the idea before. I actually told Jorn at Spinnin', like, and he was just always like, nah, I'm not sure. And then at
Secret to play. And
and then at some point he called me out of the blue, and he's like, I think it's time for you to start a label. I'm like, okay, let's go. And that's what happened. And if you say like the Peacemaker was the first release, it could be.
Yeah. So until that moment, you were just focused on getting your music out on, well, several labels, several platforms, and suddenly you had your own little spot to put everything out. And you started signing stuff from other people. And
but I mean,
suddenly you had a responsibility to have a brand going as well.
But like so it's kind of like a combination. Like the singles I would put out myself, it would still be the same like joint effort with in this case A&R Spinnin'.
Yeah. They would be like, hey, check this tune, we really like it, maybe it's something for you.
Well, not in that way, but more like just the Leon Bollier, like my own stuff. I would still send it to them like, yo guys, what do you think? And if they would be like, we think you shouldn't release it, I would still like listen and not go like, yeah, but this is my label, I'm still gonna release it. So in that respect, like I don't think not much changed, but more in the respect that I would like be on the lookout for tunes. I wasn't like I wanna release something every week. I only I don't think I signed like that many records, but just records I really was into.
Yeah.
There was this track by Daniel Candy called Symphonica, and
massive track. Still.
And I think I heard, was it, and maybe Daniel Candy himself, or it was W&W played on A State of Trance in like Poland. I was tuned in and I heard that tune, and I found out it was by Daniel Candy, so
Tim's guys.
Yeah. And I just wrote like on MSN Messenger. I wrote to him like, "Yo, what's a tune? Can I play it?" And he's, I don't know where to sign it. I'm like, get over here.
That's amazing. Well, and so 2011, Streamline came about. 2012, I had to write this down as well because you played for A State of Trance in Den Bosch.
550?
550, yes. And also Kiev, because you filled in for Matt Zo.
Yeah, he was sick.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit how that came about? Do you still remember that?
Both of them, actually. I remember, like the Kiev thing was, I got I think a phone call from my agent on Friday. And he's like, hey, do you want to play ASOT tomorrow? because I met so sick, and I was actually at my parents. I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, cool. And then I think he said something like, they're gonna announce it in 2 hours.
Yeah, because we had a show on Friday as well, I think somewhere, and then
maybe.
Yeah,
and I was like in my parents' kitchen, and we were having dinner. I'm like, yo, check this out. I put like notifications on for Twitter.
Yeah.
And like they're gonna announce it, and I just put my phone like this, and it goes like,
yeah,
like, yeah. So and then they also, and by the way, the year before there was 500 in South Africa. I remember you, like standing next to me, and you knock on my knee, and I'm like, something wrong with the sound. And like, yeah, you're like trending on Twitter.
Oh yeah. That's true, actually. I remember that, yeah.
And that was like when I could show my dad, like, yo, check this out. I was like trending on Twitter. Oh yeah, it's cool.
That is true, actually. Yeah, I now you say that, I vividly remember that, because I remember Twitter was such a massive thing back then, and because you didn't have like several social media platforms. You had Twitter. That's where everybody was just using it as a chat machine, I guess.
Yeah, and Facebook was like emerging.
Yeah. And YouTube didn't have any. How do you say it? Like any chat or WhatsApp. I think everything was in audio back then also still. Was it also in video?
No, it was video. Like, but there was no chat, like just comments.
That's it.
On YouTube, yeah.
Amazing. So yeah, I remember that happened, and I had to walk up to you like, hey, this is happening. And I think I can't believe that's episode 500. That's so long ago already. That was also
Joburg.
Massive event as well.
Yeah.
So you had some epic parts. So what is your favorite A State of Trance memory out of all of these?
Yeah, I would guess like that. Like I remember when we like the trending topic, and then like because like all the comments would drop in through Twitter. I remember like being back at the hotel and like buzzing for an hour, and like it was 7 a.m. and then like you still couldn't sleep, and like checking, and it was like so epic. But yeah, the year after in Kiev, and also the year after in Minsk.
Yeah,
like those
That's the show.
crowds.
I wasn't there, unfortunately, and I remember Seat also saying something like that. It was incredible. It was super loud.
There is a video still on YouTube. I think if you look at like Leon Bollier presenting the new single Minsk, something like this.
Yeah.
It was my intro, and it was like a track I just finished the day before, and like so they hadn't heard it before, and it was like they were like up to the roof, like crazy. Yeah. Whoa. And because like on the drop, like the lights would go on, and you would just see just like the hands like all the way to the back. It's just crazy.
So if you had to pick one of those, or is it too hard to choose?
Yeah, but I guess you can relate to that. Like there's like those moments when you're just on stage, and like you're in the moment and in the zone. Like for sure, like during all those sets, you would have those moments. But like the thing with like the trending topic and that kind of stuff, like that's also something. Like the next day, the next day you were still like, oh, that happened. That was so cool, you know.
I remember playing A State of Trance. I played my first show that I did was in Moscow for A State of Trance, and I remember getting off stage. And social media was so different back then. I remember you would go to your laptop or to your phone. You would have like 999 notifications. That's how far it would go, or mentions on Twitter.
Yeah, you'll be scrolling back for like an hour. Yeah,
insane. I miss those days. Those are fun days, to be honest.
Yeah, now you would. Yeah. But like on Instagram, it's unless you go like live.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with Twitter, it was just cool. You could just search for your own name, and then you would also then you would also see the shit comments.
Yes, like, this is not trance. What is you playing? So after these times, you started like moving away from let's say the uplifting or the banging stuff. Focusing more on the Bollier stuff rather than Leon Bollier.
Yeah, that was
what made you decide? Because you come back from these massive shows under Leon Bollier, and then you're like, okay, I'm tired of this kind of stuff. I want to move into more different kind of music.
Yeah, well, the thing was that it, like it was, I guess, like back in 2014. I was talking to Freek a lot. He had this, Freek Geuze. He had this project Redondo.
Yeah,
he was just signing. Like he actually done some trance back in the days.
Yeah,
like
Global Illumination was a massive track on our minds back in the day.
Guez,
yeah.
So. And I also know him from Club Charts Forum. So we still friends after all these years. But yeah, he had been doing house music for a long time.
Yeah.
But just like, also like underground and just doing his thing. And then all of a sudden he had this track called Love Too Deep, and that got like licensed by Spin-In, and then Spin-In were all over it. And then I also knew like Spin-In wanna, like, they might be not only wanting to focus on like the big room stuff. So and at the same time I knew like if I sent it just works like that. If all of a sudden I send Spin-In like a house track, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, it's a cool track, but it's still like too trancey or too EDM, like because they're like they would be biased.
Yeah.
So and I had like this little idea, and I showed it to Freek, and he's like, "Oh, this is dope. Let's work on this together." I'm like, "Sure." So we finished the track. I knew he had like a meeting with Spin-In the next day, and I told him like, "Show it to them. Don't
mention your name. Yeah.
Don't mention my name."
Yeah.
And so they were all over it. And then after he said like, "I done it with Leon." And Jorn called me. I didn't know you could make house music like you. But then that track was called Sunshine. Then we done another demo which was called Every Single Piece, which was like really successful. But yeah, we had that track ready, and I started working with new management. They were from America, and they just told me like, it's great stuff you're doing. Just make like 10 of those records, and then we'll see. So that's what I did, and I had those records ready, and then I sent it to Spin-In. They were all over it, and the Americans, they said like, but maybe to avoid like, because I already had like done like this shift once, like from like trance to big room, and then you get like people that don't get it, etc., etc. So they're like, maybe it's just a better idea to rebrand, and it's a long story, but that's
how BLR came about, rather than Lame BLR.
Yeah,
and then you just mentioned it. Your track Redondo and She Keeps Bees, Every Single Piece, became a massive hit. Was it like a confirmation for yourself? Okay, I'm capable of doing this, creating hit records as well.
No, it was more of a confirmation of the fact that at that, like let's say the 2 or 3 years before that, Spotify really became a thing, and I was just like calculating. Okay, how many streams do you need to do to like actually make a living of that? So that's like if that happens, then you're like, you have like peace of mind.
Yeah.
And then we started doing those records, and then that like they started streaming. So it was more of like that confirmation, because like I don't want to sound like arrogant, but if there's like a new genre or like I want to do a new, I know like I can do it.
Yeah.
So
because you have the knowledge to do anything, basically produce anything that you want to.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
So it was also a business decision to start releasing these kind of records.
The main reason for that is like, because I knew if I all of a sudden switch genres, I'm gonna lose the gigs.
Yeah.
So I need to have like this backup. So that's why.
So you have a certain amount of streams to make sure that you don't have to gig every weekend. And
then afterwards I can just like build up the gigs again, but there's like no pressure. I don't have to chase an agent, whatever, and I can actually tell an agent like, just give me the good stuff. You know?
So no weird shows for one show around the world. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. 2016. This is absolutely crazy. You did the version of Is This Love?
Yeah,
which is on I don't know how many million streams right now on Spotify. 150, 160 million streams,
probably.
something like that. How did that come about? That's a massive. It's an official thing. So
yeah. Also, credits again to Jorn. He called me and or he actually put an email to me and Landscape.
Yeah,
and he said like the sound of you guys combined could be really good. And maybe you should make a bootleg of a Bob Marley track. And he's like, yeah, maybe, I think he said like Three Little Birds or Is This Love?
Yeah.
And the only thing he said is like, yeah, you do a bootleg and throw it on SoundCloud and see what happens. That's it. So we're like, okay, which track are we gonna take? And there was like a cappella out there of Is This Love? And I was on a Skype call with Landscape, and I told him like, I know Jorn is into this old Filterhead stuff with like the marimba.
Yeah.
So like, just like I had my keyboard next to me, and I just played like this little melody. And let's add like this whistle. I was still smoking back then, so I was like, you gotta record the whistling. Which we did, and we had a demo ready in a couple of hours, and we sent it to him, and he's like, "Oh, that's great." And then nothing for 2 days, and then Roger from Spin also went on like on the email chain, and he said like, I sent the track to Universal, and they sent it to the Bob Marley family, and they're really
what is
into
happening?
it. Yeah. So basically Roger said like, it's gonna be an official collab with the late Bob Marley.
Yeah.
And then and nothing happened for a year, so we are like, that's
it's
how it
probably
works.
not gonna happen anymore.
That's how it works in the music business. And then just a year later, my manager back then dropped me a call, and he's like, we're dropping the release in 2 weeks. There's just one last thing they need to figure out, like, because they wanted to use Bob Marley's picture on the artwork, and there was also some legal stuff going on for it. But then within 2 weeks it dropped, and
the rest is history.
The rest is
that must have been insane. Like Sony, you have official because they are very protective of their copyrights.
Yeah.
That must have been a big honor to.
Yeah, most definitely. That's still like those things that you're like, it's not happening, you know?
Yeah. And then in the meantime, the years that followed, you also had big hits with Grow Up, Riverbank. But what I want to point out in 2016 is that the start of BLR came about.
Yeah.
Another New Guys. I remember that this track came out because it was the first release on Tiesto's new label, After Hours. So you made Tiesto like, okay, I want to start this new label, because I remember when Our Minds started was a track from Mark Alton, which was a decision also like, hey, I need to start a new label because of this sound. So do you remember sending that track to Tiesto? We're talking about Nungui.
Yeah, I don't like. I remember. I think like Pete Tong saying like Nungui. So I guess
it's stuck around.
Yeah.
So Tiesto launched a new label, After Hours, with your track.
Yeah, but it's different than the Our Minds story actually. It's one, like, it's getting boring. But one more time back to Jorn. I was at the office at Spin, and I told Jorn like a year before. I think
I want to make more club tracks again.
Well, but like then still they can decide like, we don't want that, or like we don't want to release it because
blah blah blah.
But I told him like, I think it's kind of time for this sound to kind of come back, and like that you can actually like there's an audience for it, right?
Yeah. So this was just like Big Room was, well, not saying dying, but Big Room was like slowly fading, and people
also
explore new sounds and
the commercial deep house, the vocal. I mean, there's always a place for that, I guess. But I told him like, I think there will be an audience for this kind of stuff again, and he was like, I'm not so sure. But then half a year later, I was at the office, and he's like, can you come to my office? And he started playing. Like James Holden stuff, Axia, couple of those records, because I always knew that he's into that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, you think it's time for me to do this kind of stuff? He's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, okay, I'll send you something tonight. And I did that, and he was really into it. And then I had the record done, and Jorn is like, you have so much lined up with us now. We don't even have room in your schedule to release this. And then I said, like, yeah, let's make a new alias for this. And he instantly said, like, BLR with, like, Bollier but shorter. Like, sure, let's go. And
maybe because After Hours is also without, it's also short.
Yeah, but I didn't know that was going on. But later on, it was Miami Music Week, but I was at home. I was just in the studio, and then Marco from Spin, and he sent me a text like, "Yo, check out Thijs' set at Ultra tonight." And I thought he's gonna play like a different, like another release of mine, because that was in progress, Bollier Ipanema. I thought he was gonna drop that one, and then so I checked the set, and all of a sudden I hear that track.
Like what?
Yeah, like, and especially like in a chess set, because he would be like
more banging up, up tempo.
But like he. Like he often just like
he throws a curveball.
Yeah. Which I like. But yeah, so apparently Jorn showed it to him at the hotel, and Thijs like, oh, who made this? Jorn's like, I'm not gonna tell you. And apparently that's what I heard afterwards, is that he already had a track ready. He already wanted to launch that label, but then he said like, no, this is going to be the first release. So the plans for the label already there, and then they just swapped.
That's amazing though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
So when you think about it, because especially if the first release of a label, that's like it's an epic moment, because people are going to announce like, hey, Chester has a new label. First release is going to be a track by Leon Bollier.
Yeah, but then no one knew.
Yeah,
that was me.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah,
for yourself.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, that's cool. Okay, so we're gonna jump after that, because of BLR started, and then in 2018, also a big step, because you were working with A&Rs for like, let's say 15 years already. You started your own label.
Yeah,
Forecast. Why did you decide to start an own label? Because you were it sounds like you were in a good spot also with A&Rs and managers and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I still am. But at the same time, I actually started with my manager back then, because you know how it goes sometimes with labels. Like it takes a while before you get like even like feedback, and then you change something, and then it takes another week, etc., etc. And especially with like having a high output, I just wanna like. So it's not like, oh, I don't want to release on other labels no more. So I start my own label, but it's more for like, if I have something and it just takes so long, so I can just decide like to just always keep releasing music.
Yeah. And that's what you do, like to release as much tunes as possible.
Yeah, it's like that's not the goal, but I love making music, and when something is done, like I want it out.
Do you still use a sort of a structure that you have someone to check out your own music, or you just put it out? Because that's the thing. Because I know this for myself as well. And having my own label, sometimes you have to send it out to other people to make sure you get the feedback that you used to have in club charts or the A&R. But with your own label, you can just put it out and say like, hey, in 2 weeks I'm going to release this track. No one's heard it before, but there you go.
Yeah, I think I really taught myself, but that's also like actually somewhere like before that in the process, where I can like instantly just know for myself if the idea I'm working on is good enough. So if I have like the slightest doubt, I can send it to other people, and then there was like maybe once in 50 times they would go like, oh, this is amazing, but usually they would be like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm okay, trash, because you know, if they don't go like, they don't blow up over it, I know it's not good enough to actually finish. So for me, usually when I finish something, it's worth releasing. And still, obviously, when I work, but it is more of out of excitement that I show stuff to like colleagues. And I'm always open for feedback. So every feedback I get, like it gets stored somewhere, and I keep it as luggage, like for the path forward. But like the answer to your question really is like if I think it's done and it's worth releasing.
You trust your gut.
Yeah.
I guess that's the best thing to do, to be really honest, because you've been in the music scene for such a long time that you can be like, okay, I know this is good enough to put out, and
back in the day, I would try to save an idea that would be like subpar, and then still finish it, and then sometimes even labels would still take it, and then in the end, like also like in hindsight, those weren't like the biggest track of my career, biggest tracks of my career.
Makes a lot of sense also. How do you, because I know that you have so much output, how much tracks actually see a release? Let's say how much percentage? Like, because just by saying here, you come into the studio here, you do a guest mix of an hour, you say, hey, I have 3 new tunes, I've finished one just before coming here. How much of those tunes actually see because I can imagine that you don't release everything that you make.
Not everything, but I think now like the percentage of like stuff I finish and really actually release is like it's pretty high, I think. It's like I finish a lot, but then also like I do like some like ghosting and like that kind of stuff or sound design stuff. So that's stuff that doesn't go to my aliases.
Okay. So you have stuff that you release with other people release music.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't like to. Well, I love making music, but I don't like to know I'm working on something and then nothing is gonna happen to it. Even though it's still sometimes it's like that. Actually, one of the tracks, the West of the Sun track, I played. I actually made that track. Like right in the middle of the COVID crisis. So that's 4 years ago. I remember it was like the last day of summer. I knew because like in August and like the weather forecast is like tomorrow the weather is going to be bad. So I was in my garden with a laptop and just the headphones, and I wrote like this little piano chord progression and finish the track. That's why it's called Today. Like, so today is great, tomorrow is going to be shitty weather, etc.
It's going to rain.
And then like I had the track laying around for 4 years. It's one of my like favorite tracks I've done. I could have released it like even on my own label, but I wanted it on a label that's like more catered for that kind of music. And so now it's going to be released on Colorize. And I think they can do a great job pushing that record. So so even if something it's like at least I think is great, it's still worth like just waiting with it, like instead of like just throwing it on the wrong label or whatever.
So have a music that you create on the right platform to get the right exposure that it deserves.
And sometimes it just takes a while.
I guess patience is one of the things that you have to tell to some of the upcoming producers and DJs. Like sometimes you have to have patience. You can't build a career in one day. It's impossible.
And also one of the first things I learned is like how to deal with disappointment.
Oh yeah. That's like, one of the things that we always talk about in the podcast as well. How do you deal with rejection and people criticizing your music and the disappointment of music is massive as well.
Yeah, but like criticizing and disappointment is usually like, oh, you're gonna get something like this is gonna happen with your track, like with
the door gets smashed in your face, like
with like the In Search of Sunrise thing. I remember like the first thing I did on the release party is buy the CD to check if I'm actually on there, because then like
this is for sure
it's happened because many times people promise you the world and then just something happens and then you can go like, oh yeah, I'm so disappointed. But it's like, that's life and it's business,
but some like it, I know it discourages a lot of producers and DJs as well. They get disappointed once and they just give up and they walk away.
Yeah, but I mean, like the only advice you can give is like, yeah, don't get discouraged. But it's
that's
I guess
a mental mindset.
Yeah,
as well.
It's like I guess like a personality thing.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, if something doesn't go through and like I'm disappointed, yeah, I can be like.
What has been your biggest disappointment in all these years that you had to overcome? Obviously,
like I like at that point
that you were like, okay, this is it.
No, yeah, I never had that. Like, but at like when something just doesn't go through, then at that point you think that's the like biggest disappointment. And now I'm like, I can't even think of one. Like, maybe like some you were supposed to be booked on a big party, and then it doesn't go through. Like, because sometimes it's like like
someone other artist comes
like
in, or there's like a political decision that someone else is taking your spot.
Politics, yeah. So yeah, that happens, and it happened to everyone. It happened to you.
Yeah.
And 5 years later, you don't even remember. So,
well, sometimes the disappointment is so big that you still remember it after these years, but you have to take a lesson out of it, because, like what you say, if it's a political decision that someone else is taking a spot on the lineup, then you just have to say to yourself, and that's being a critic of yourself. Okay, you have to be better to make sure that you don't get in a discussion that people are going to swap you out of a lineup.
Yeah.
It's all on your own.
Yeah. So that's.
But a lot of people see otherwise, because in the music scenes, a lot of people think they're entitled, but no one's entitled. No one's owing you anything.
Exactly.
You have to build your own fate.
So I've always whatever happened. Okay, maybe you're down for 1 hour, and then you gotta be like, or at least okay, I'll show him.
Yeah, exactly. That's the mindset you need to have. And I think that's the mindset a lot of people have to find for themselves as well.
And not blaming, like
no, don't blame anyone. Just make sure that people cannot doubt anything of your, like, say we're going to swap him out, or we're going to do whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can say, like, that's unfair, or and
sometimes it is, but
and those decisions weren't made on based on the quality of the music. Yeah. But it happens. So
you have to deal with it.
Yeah,
that's what it is. You already mentioned the West of the Sun. Is it going to be more releases on West of the Sun as well?
Yeah, I'm planning to. But right now, I have records finished, but I haven't planned them or signed them.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the meantime, we're here in 2024. We're skipping a few years, a lot of unfortunate years for the music industry as well. Which in the meantime, you released a lot of nice records as well on Forecast as well. But I want to mention your return to our mind, because suddenly out of nowhere, I have to say, you came with My Precious Ethereal and Endless. I was like, hey, who are these records made by? And then it was you. You already mentioned a little bit how you got them signed to our mind, but what made you decide to go into the, let's say, not trancey kind of things again, but sort of, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but no. But no, but yes.
Yeah, like for me, BLR project is a bit between everything, like all genres, and I also like that that like trance DJs, house DJs, techno DJs are playing the BLR stuff. So like I said, like during COVID days, like the BLR stuff was like very deep and melodic, and then like the switch actually came with Influencer, track on Anjuna, and then like actually its follow-up was called Lipstick.
Yeah,
was signed to John Summit's label. So then John started playing all this stuff, and like all those like Dom Dolla, like those kind of guys, like the, let's say, more tech house. Then I together with Matt Cesari, I already signed two records to True Soul, which is Adam Byer's label. So he started playing BLR records, and now there's something coming up on Drum Code. And at the same time, I saw, especially when stuff like the BLR stuff got a bit more clubby. Armin already played like most of the releases on Dance Department.
Yeah.
But then also he started playing those on A State of Trance, and we go way back. So that's at some point I just text him like, yo, I see you support a lot of BLR records. How about I send you a bunch? And he's like, please do. And that's what happened. And the My Precious track is actually the one I already had laying around. I think since around the time I dropped Lipstick, so that's end of 22. And also that one was like, waiting for the right label. So it's still like, you could call it like a techno record with like a trance break. So I sent that one to Armin, and he was into it.
That's amazing. I think the funny thing is that you just mentioned that you have this project BLR, and you sign a track to True. So you sign a track to Anjuna Beats, and now also on Drum Code.
And which Experts Only.
Yeah, well, that's. I think that's, if you could go back 8 years in time, that would be impossible.
Then
to have an alias, and that people from Drum Code would not accept a guy that has a history in the trance industry, whatever what you did in the past, would not allow that on the label. And suddenly you see that these guys are also embracing the more melodic sounds and are more open minded about things as well, I guess.
I have to say, like the track that comes up on Drum Code is not melodic at all.
No, but still, it's more about the thought of things.
Yeah.
Because what you see also before we started this episode, that showed you the track of Eli Brown, it's full on trance.
Yeah.
So I think it's so fascinating that there's such a movement going on in the world right now.
Yeah, everything is like blending, and I think that's great.
It's super exciting.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember. I have to mention as well, because Influencer is one of the tracks that I've played the most in the last few years in my sets. And there's just something happening when you play Influencer on a dance floor.
So crazy.
People are losing their minds.
Yeah. I remember, like the first version of Influencer was actually a house record. Robbie, the vocalist, he showed me this demo, and it just had like, I really hope my next girlfriend will be an influence, and there was nothing. And I'm like, we gotta write a lyric.
Okay.
But like that was later. Like we only had that part, and then Robbie came to my place, and I'm like, that's a great way to start like a story, and we gotta make like summing up. So
the things what an influencer does.
Well, the things that a very lazy boyfriend of an influencer does. I want cheap. It's nice to meet you. Okay, and then but then we had like a house record. Later on, it was still like COVID days, so I made like this really deep progressive version of it, and then I showed to Marcus Anime. And the club started opening again, and he's like, "No, it got to be like crazy." So that's when we started working. Then we started working on the crazy shit, and that was the outcome.
That was one of my favorite tracks of that year. And like I said, if I still play long sets, I still play it. And sometimes you see that the crowd is a little bit more like into the housey stuff. I would still drop it as well.
Yeah, but there was like I remember like that year because I know you I think on like Together with Ferry you were talking about like
favorite tracks of the year.
Yeah. And then I think like actually the same night like Layback Luke texted me like, hey, check this out, and he sent me I think like a YouTube vid or like an Instagram story where he was actually doing his favorite tracks on the year. Yeah.
So that's funny. On one side, so you have A State of Trance, then you have Layback Luke.
And Luke is, he's like house EDM.
That's funny, man. That's really, really cool. So the last thing I want to talk about before we go to a few questions, because going also to your discography, I see like a real bromance thing going on with a couple of guys. You also already mentioned Freek Geus and Marcus Jusso. In the past, you worked a lot with Joop and Siet van Riel. It feels like you're still talking with most of these guys and still working on music even together after, let's say, 20 years. Is that something that you how does that work? Like a bromance like that, a musical bromance for so many years already, because you see people coming in, leaving.
I often say it like this, where with like a lot of people, I still talk to Seed, I still talk to Joop, even though we don't do music anymore.
Yeah.
But it's like you instantly know, like, that's a guy I can go to the bar with, you know, and that's like, and like, it's not gonna be awkward. You're gonna have a fun night. So that's the same with like with Freek and Marcus, like those kind of guys. And with Freek and Marcus is just like you in the studio, and then you have like this little idea that you're like, oh, maybe it's not for like one of my projects, but maybe if we do a collab, so you just drop into each other, and that's how, like, if the other, or if I, when they send me something, am excited about it, or he's excited about it, let's work on the record.
Yeah. I think it's fantastic to see, because you see, for example, with Marcus Gisso, you have such a long relationship with releasing music together, and it also goes from, was it Östkaas? 2999, a fantastic
Still a
record.
banger, yeah.
And now all these years later, you work with him on anime and BLR stuff. So I think that's really cool.
We done Influencer, we done Close to You. Close to You, also one of my favorite records. And I think 2099 you can still play today.
Yeah. Such a massive melody as well. All right. So it's nice to hear about these bromances, and I hope that you're going to continue with those guys as well in the future.
Definitely.
A question from Extra C wants to know, who's your favorite vocal artist, and would you love to work with in the future?
Yeah, I mean there is a lot of amazing artists. Like one for me that always pops to mind straight away is Becky Hill. Yeah, she got like edge to her voice.
I saw some performance video of her at Ushuaia earlier this summer. I was like,
yeah,
so good.
Yeah. Like ever since I heard, like, I think the first time I heard it was like on Oliver's record Gecko.
Yeah.
And like, it got like soul and like this little bit like hoarseness to her voice. Like, yeah.
So Becky Hill is a good answer.
And I actually discovered like a vocalist that has a bit of that. She's called Brianna. I'm gonna do a couple of records.
Okay.
Like, she's great.
Oscar Gues, music writes, looking back at all your productions, what sound do you miss the most in your recent productions that you did differently in the past and that you're doing now?
I mean, I could say, like, if I miss a sound, I bring it back into, especially with BLR, I can do it. The only thing that like just doesn't work right now is like with the Leon Bollier trance records, like Ocean Drive Boulevard. Those kind of records had like those really long melodies.
Yeah, like 2.5 minutes breakdowns.
Well, it's not even about like the length of the breakdown, but like the melody could be like 16 bars.
Yeah,
and I feel that it just doesn't work as well, especially if you want like a broad range of DJs to play it out. Like, it gotta be
too long.
Yeah, it gotta be a bit more on point, like a 4-bar or like maybe a 4-bar and like copy to 8-bar, but like slightly different next 4-bar. So, but it's not like that I cry myself to sleep missing it.
Cry yourself to sleep with 16 bars.
Yeah.
Adi Burstein wants to know, was the track title My Precious inspired by Lord of the Rings?
Actually, it was, and I don't even like Lord of the Rings.
No,
no, but I signed the track, the original My Precious back in 2006. I signed it to Mike Shiver's label, and Mike, I think he just suggests calling it My Precious, and then he's like, if you do, like, you gotta have like My Precious.
Yeah.
So on the original version is actually Mike. Whispering My Precious, and on this version is actually myself.
Okay.
Yeah,
I actually ran into that was funny. Last year I played in Stockholm, and I remember I was in the green room, and Mike Shiver was there and Oscar Khan were there, and we just reminiscing about so much stuff, like the Trans Down You days and the Intuition parties and stuff like that. It was good times.
I think I met you at the Intuition, like Intuition, like. I think I was playing, and there was like this dude giving me like a promo CD. It was you.
Yeah, that was
you
me.
were running your label already.
Yeah, in trance back in the days. Good times. Vicious Code wants to know, with the amount of classics you remix, what is your favorite and what is the next one?
Oof. Favorite classic.
That's a hard question. You played a Dane remix on the show, and you did Karen Overtone as well.
Yeah. So those ones are going to be next.
Yeah.
I also done a remix of Solid Globe,
Sahara or North Pole. Oh wow,
North Pole. I done a remix of the Ritraum, but I'm just not sure. Should I try to make it a cover or like go to the original label? But it's usually when I have like a lot of singles finished and like all the ghost work is done, whatever. I'm like,
what next?
Yeah, what? Yeah. And especially nowadays with the AI, you can easily rip those vocals and then just make. I actually done that with Endane. Summer Calling.
Oh, you didn't have the parts. You just took it out from.
I ripped it first, and I worked on it, and I thought like what I had was sounding great. So then I sent it to Dave Dresden, and he got back, and he was really into it. So he's like, "Yeah, let me get you the parts," and then he sent me the original.
That's
parts.
Awesome, man. Such a massive track as well. Last but not least, I'm not sure what the. Oh no, wait, there's another one. Robert wants to know. Why BLR and not Leon Bollier anymore? Well, I think you explained it that it's a matter of genre.
And I still release.
Because you did a track on Future Sound of Egypt this year, even.
Yeah. And there's one coming up in September. Actually, like a rework of a track that actually was big on the Trance on New forums back in 03, 04. Back then it was called Rose Garden. It's still called Rose Garden. It's actually Armin's brother played some guitar on that like back in the day. And I just decided to like actually like rework it. It's still like very close to how it sounded back then, but just like with updated production. So that's coming out. And then also Fadi was asking for some new stuff for a few Sound of Egypt. So but if it's like a trance track, like with Leon Bollier, it's not about like any business. So I just want to do tracks that those people that enjoyed that sound then, like I'm not gonna try to feed them like a house, but it's like a trancey house or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be like a full on trance track and for them to enjoy.
Yeah. So you're still a bit of a people pleaser in the meantime.
Yeah, but like because like after 10 years of not doing trance, then you kind of find like
because you see that it's popping up in everywhere. And
but it's not like a business decision. It's like just for fun. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering all these questions.
No worries.
Very much looking forward to a lot of more BLR, Bollier, Leon Bollier, West of the Sun. I'm gonna keep an eye on everything, I guess.
I'll send you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. Next time we're going to be here in the studio with Kio and Albert. So see you then. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in. Check all previous episodes on YouTube or your favorite podcast portal.